Trent Dyrsmid, are you ready to fearlessly question today?
Sure, I'm ready to go.
All right, well, we'll see what we can do. Trent, I have to ask this first question. Do you ever think to yourself, if it wasn't for Lewis House, you would be considered the best looking dude in internet marketing?
uh, I have no idea.
No? Nothing. All right. Well, I just wanted to warm you up here. Just something I thought about. I hope my wife might be watching. I don't know, but just something I
I
thought
hope she's weirded out if she is.
about. Yeah, so I will try and not creep you out for the rest of the show, but I will not make any promises.
All right.
So why don't we just start off really quickly here? Why don't you tell everybody your kind of experience, fearlessly questioning, kind of building businesses and things like that?
Well, so my business career, as anyone who's followed me for a while will already know, I was a sales guy for other companies, spent the bulk of my time in the investment business selling stocks and bonds and so forth. Started a business in 2001, which I built up to a couple $1 million a year in revenue. It was a company that is still in business today called Durand, and it delivers IT services over the web. And then and I sold that company because I kind of got stuck at around the $2 million mark back before inbound marketing really became popular. It was right around the time when cold calling stopped working and inbound marketing was only in its infancy, and I didn't know anything about it. And I just really, out of frustration with my inability to grow that business, sold it. And then over the next few years, became exposed to this wonderful world of online marketing. And spent the first 2 years prior to launching my agency, which happened in March of this year, kind of spinning my wheels, which was what my rant video was about. Kind of spinning my wheels in the information products business. I still sell information products today, but if you haven't watched the rant video, go ahead and watch it and you'll see my views on that business.
And yeah, that was, I mean, probably not to offend any of my other guests, that was probably one of the better rants that we've gotten here on the show, I have to say. But I did want to catch everybody up. I don't know if you remember this, but there's a little backstory to this conversation that we're going to have today. I've billed it as the potential to be one of the most confrontational conversations that we've had on the show. Um, Back in about April, I replied to you via Twitter from it was your 2 year plan to building your marketing agency. I don't know if you remember this at all, Trent. But
I
it
don't
was
remember the
the
specific.
headline. I'll give you a quick rundown for you and everybody at home. It was my 2 year plan to how to build a 7 figure lifestyle business. Um, and I'd said to you, I said, and this is kind of what had me thinking about the whole fearlessly questioning empty business building. And I kind of said again, I think we're going to kind of eventually get to the same place, but we're going to take two very different paths to get there. Um, but what I had said to you in that reply, I see two things missing. I see passion and purpose. Not to mention, I think there's a lot of I's and my's going on instead of you's and we's. Now you questioned my English and asked if I was
Now I
writing on
remember. Now I remember.
and
Yep.
basically, what I was getting at was, it sounded to me like I heard a lot about just the kind of things that you wanted to get out of the business, but I wasn't quite sure what exactly you wanted people to get out of your business. Um, and that's kind of my first kind of thing. Like, what I mean, that's why I wanted to set this whole thing up is maybe to kind of clear that up and take it further. I mean, I'll let you kind of jump in and kind of defend yourself at this point.
Well, I don't feel like I need to defend myself because there's nothing to defend. The business is very simple. If you're going to, no matter what your business is, if you're not delivering value for other people, your business is not going to be successful. What your personal motivations are for starting the business are totally irrelevant. They can be whatever you want them to be, so long as you build a business where you're adding value to other people. And so I know from being an entrepreneur for years and years and years that marketing and sales, in particular lead generation and sales, are a huge problem for pretty much everybody in business. I was just on the phone this morning with a guy who runs a $4.5 million company. They sell labels and thermal printing ribbons and printers and anything that people that move stuff like warehouses and so forth they need. And he's stuck. He's stuck at $4.5 million a year in sales. He says none of the things that I used to build my business work anymore. So that guy has a very real problem. And the solution to his problem is going to be better marketing. In particular, inbound marketing, I think, could work well for him if as we discussed, if he develops the right strategy. So the fact that I want to get rich and build a lifestyle business, that's my personal motivation. But that's okay. It doesn't matter what my motivation is. If I'm delivering value to my customers, then it's a great business to be in. So that's why your tweet or whatever it was really pissed me off, because I thought to myself, this guy is probably just like 99 other morons that have written me to say this, that, or the other thing. And when you have a very large audience, you get, the hater email. And so I had no time for it.
So am I one of those 99 morons? You just call me a moron politely. I want to know.
Well, I didn't know who the hell you were back then. You were just some person that emailed me and had a view that I completely didn't agree with. I got to know you a little bit better in preparation for this call, and I think probably, no, maybe you're not a moron.
All right. Well, we'll see. Maybe back the other way by the end of this conversation. Who knows? Anything can happen. I might be a moron by the time we're done with this, but we'll see what we can do. Well, and I think the thing is, I because this is a fascinating thing, and this is why I wanted to talk to you about it, because I completely agree with like what you're doing and the way that you're going about it to an extent. And when I set this whole thing up, you had on like basically the homepage of your website, watch me build my next business to sell for $1.8 million. That's no longer there. Why'd you take it down?
Because I split test things all the time, and I figured out something that worked better.
So now, what wasn't about that message that wasn't working? Any idea?
No idea. Just it doesn't, and nor does it matter. That's the point of split testing. It's sales copy is this set of words versus this set of words. And this set of words work better than this set of words, so those ones are gone.
Obviously, I will agree with you to an extent, but we do put some meaning behind what we put out there as far as it being a representation of our brand and our company. Do you think that there was something not resonating with people for that particular reason?
People who come, as I mentioned in my rant, I have a low opinion, a very low opinion of people who are douchey information products marketers, and there's a lot of those people out there, and I wanted to differentiate myself. That's why I said watch me build and sell my next $1.8 million business, because I've already done it one time. So if you want to pay attention to a guy who used to be a waiter and now he sells information products, hey, fill your boots, go ahead. But if you want to pay attention to someone who's already built a legitimate business and is now in the process of attempting to do it again, great, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the fascination to me is that, one, like I said, I think one of the things that I wrote leading up to the show is that you're probably one of the most credible people that have had the most legitimate real success in business that we've probably talked to. A lot of us online marketing people, we've had success, but you've actually built a real business. But I guess the question that I want to ask is it the notion that you're just doing this to eventually sell it or not? We kind of touched upon this briefly behind the scenes from your rant talk, but is the notion that you're building it just to sell it, does that send a message to them, well, is he really invested in me in the long term? Is he really invested in my success as a business owner in the future? Or is it just, once he hits his number, then he's out and he doesn't really care about me? It doesn't have that potential.
Well, it's an interesting question that you ask, and I'll come back with a question. Does it really matter? Think about this from the audience member's perspective. What do they want? They want to be successful. They want to learn how to build a business that they can have and provide an income for their family and deliver value to their customers. And if it's an online business, be able to live anywhere in the world and have a lifestyle. So if they follow me for a year or 2 years, and I shoot the lights out and I sell my business and they never hear from me again, but they learned a whole bunch of lessons on the way that benefited them, what's wrong with that?
I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I just was curious if that had an impact on the type of people that you're attracting. For me personally, if I'm going to be, taking this journey now, I guess the time frame is the biggest question. How long would your expectations be? Now, like you said, you used the word year, and I would, which brings up an even more interesting question of how long somebody does kind of stay with you, whether they're following you or actually being a client. But if I was to invest a serious amount of money, like your clients do, as far as like what you discussed, retainers and things like that. I mean, if I'm investing my blood, sweat, tears, like handing my company over to you, and then I know that maybe 3 years from now you might not be there to help continue to solve my problems, and I've got to go find somebody else, and that's I know
Nah,
that
no,
I
no, no,
know.
no, 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 no. See, here's where my experience of building and selling a business gives me a perspective that anyone else who's built and sold a real business will share, and all the info product people who never have, they won't get. The mindset, Joey, of building a business to sell is predicated on the fact that you build a business that has systems, processes, who use the systems and processes to execute the deliverables promised to the client on a day-to-day basis in a consistent fashion. Whether the CEO is there or not becomes much, much, much less relevant if the business and the staff of the business is able to operate that business to a high level of efficiency and productivity. Now, in my case, in my past, that's exactly what I did. I built a business that was staffed by people who were then running systems and processes that I created so that I wasn't needed by my customers on a day-to-day basis. Now, so that should give customers some comfort that they're not solely and completely dependent upon just one person, because just one person is a single point of failure. What happens if I get run over by a bus? It's the same. If everything is dependent upon me, whether I sell it, whether I just disappear, whether I get abducted by aliens, or I get run over by a bus, the end result for the customer is the same. It stops. Now, the other thing that was really well documented in a book called Built to Sell is that whether you sell or not, you should have the mindset to build a business that is sellable, because what that will give you is a phenomenally good lifestyle, which is what I had in my last business. If you put effort into working on your business, this is what the book E-Myth is all about. If you put effort into working on your business, as opposed to continually working in your business, the business is actually pleasurable to own, because you're not going to have to work 80 hours a week to run it, because you have systems and processes and people in place to look after the day-to-day responsibilities, which ultimately is the value that you're delivering to clients.
Now, I let you get away with a little bit there. You kind of skipped to the end on me. You gave people a sneak peek of where this conversation was ultimately heading. So I'll forgive that spoiler. But the thing that I think, and this is where maybe we're looking at it from two different lenses, but the customer isn't always aware of that concept, that those systems and such are in place just for first initial experiences with you. Would you agree?
No, I wouldn't agree with that either.
Why would you say that?
It's because the type of customers that we target are not small businesses. I'm not interested in having someone that's doing $1 million or $2 million a year as a client, because they, generally speaking, can't afford the amount of fees that we charge. So by the nature of the fees that we charge, we can only work with larger organizations, say $10 million, $15 million, $50 million a year, $100 million a year. Any executive in a business of that size understands the importance of documented systems and processes, because they more than likely use them in their own business. Are they perfect? Probably not, but they definitely use them. It's the franchise model. Would McDonald's be successful if they didn't document everything? Would Subway have been successful if they didn't document everything? No, not likely, because they would have had inconsistencies in the way that their product was made and delivered.
I'll let that one go. I think that maybe makes sense. I'm obviously not one of those executives, so I can't speak to that. But I still think somewhere along the lines that I think what we're talking about is just the communication to the different people. But I think what I took away the most, and I think everyone should take away, is that you know who you're targeting, and you've set up your communication as such to identify those people and to basically shoo other people away. Would that be correct?
Correct. And the other thing that the audience who doesn't know me may not understand is I have 2 blogs, and they're very different. The Bright Ideas blog is not where I attract clients. That is the blog where I teach other entrepreneurs how to be successful in building a business. And the homepage that you were referring to earlier is the homepage on the Bright Ideas blog. The blog where I attract customers is groovedigitalmarketing.com. The homepage on that is very, very different, and the voice and the stuff that we share is very, very different than what I share on Bright Ideas. Is it possible that people will become a client and then discover that Bright Ideas exists? Yeah, it's actually quite likely they will discover it, but that's okay.
All right, well, today we're going to go ahead and give you a break here. We'll let the sweat stop for a second. We're going to turn the tables on the audience. We're going to let you ask the audience a fearless question of your own, something that you kind of have always wanted to ask but weren't sure what the response would be. Today is the day that you have the opportunity to do that. What's your question to the audience?
Well, I can't say that I have something that I've always wanted to ask, but didn't have the opportunity.
It sounds sure. It sounds good. We got to play it up here.
People are probably getting the sense that I really don't like hype, and if they are, they would be accurate. I really don't like hype. So what I'd like to know is of sales and marketing, which do you perceive is holding you back more?
It's a very interesting question, so feel free to leave your responses in the event page for Trent, and we'll go ahead and get to those if anybody wants to take a shot at answering the question. I'm going to come back to you with a question from that is, being somebody who does sales and marketing myself within my own family business, I find it hard to differentiate the two nowadays. Would you say that that's going to be accurate for a lot of people?
No, I see there is a very, very stark delineation between sales and marketing. Very simply, marketing's job is to create leads for the sales team to talk to and convert into customers. Very, very different.
If you're doing it all, I guess I create the marketing, I create the leads, and then I talk to the leads. So it's like that's like my job, like the whole thing though. So that's I guess.
In small organizations, a lot of times the leaders of the organization, of the company, rely on the sales team to do both. They want them to prospect, to find leads, and then convert through conversation, presentation, whatever, those leads into customers. I would suggest that that is a highly inefficient approach, especially in this day and age. And I'll reference my conversation with the fellow this morning of the $4.5 million company. He said, hey, the tactics that I have 5 salespeople, he said, and the tactics that we used to build this company no longer work. And the reason for that is the internet. In the old days, if you wanted pricing information, or you wanted product specs, or you wanted customer testimonials, or you wanted a demo, or whatever, you had to talk to the sales rep. It's the only place you can get the information. Now people can get information from the internet whenever they want, however they want. So what that means is the power that the sales rep used to have is now gone. They don't hold all the information, all the cards, all the valuable stuff. That's readily available anywhere. So the corporate executive board did this study, and they basically came up with this conclusion, which I've linked to in a number of my blog posts, that according to them, 57% of the buyer's journey now happens, the buyer is invisible to the seller for the first 57% of the journey. In other words, they're out there doing their research online, they're looking at reviews, they're looking at pricing, they're getting all this information that they need long before they ever talk to you. That's one of the reasons why marketing has become so incredibly important today. The other reason is, from the sales rep's perspective, cold calling, it just doesn't work anymore. You simply can't get through to people. You can leave someone 10 voicemail messages. All you're going to do is piss them off. They're not going to call you back. So if you can't get through to people, how do you get a lead? Well, instead of trying to interrupt people from whatever they're interested in, the whole methodology is called the inbound marketing methodology, is to use content, blog posts, videos, podcasts, hangouts, whatever, to become what people are interested in. Because now that the internet's here, like in my old business, I used to sell just in my city, in Vancouver, where I was originally from. Now in my new business, I don't have any clients in my city. As a matter of fact, I've never even met any of my clients, nor do I ever need to meet any of my clients, because North America or the world, there's a whole bunch of people. Like there's 5.9 billion Google searches every day. 5.9 billion. So no matter what it is that you sell, some percentage of those people are looking for it. So rather than you going out and knocking on doors and trying to like convince people to buy your stuff, wouldn't it be better to have your marketing so good that you could put yourself in the path of discovery of people who are already looking for your stuff? And then your salespeople's job prospect anymore. Now your salespeople's job is to be helpful and to close. Very, very different mindset than what existed, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
I want to hit on something that you had said very early in that little mini rant there within the show here. You had basically told me that I don't do my job efficiently. So how is somebody in my position where they don't have necessarily the resources of a company that is much larger create those efficiencies and split up those processes?
Well, you don't need the resources of a large company. When I started my agency, I had the resources of me. What you need to do is you need to, first of all, figure out who is my target audience, and you need to be specific. If you're just saying, well, small business owners, well, that's not specific enough. You're never going to be able to stand out. What you might say is my target audience are people who run professional services companies that have between 30 and 60 employees in any one of these 3 cities, for example. Then you need to figure out, well, what are those folks interested in? So if whatever you sell is a boring topic, then you need to look at what the related topic is. So let me give you an example. I was at HubSpot's inbound conference, and I attended a talk called How to Use Content Marketing or Inbound Marketing to Succeed in Boring Industries. And the guy who was talking, he's in the mortgage business. Are mortgages interesting? No. Does anyone really want to read about a mortgage? If they're looking for one, maybe, but generally speaking, not the most, payments and interest rates, not the most interesting topic in the world. So what they did is they started to blog about peripheral content. They started to blog about the house, and that became interesting to people. So in your perspective, if you sell insurance, that's what you sell is insurance, right?
Pretty boring. Doesn't get much boring than that.
Yeah. So don't talk about insurance. Talk about leadership. Talk about sales. Talk about marketing. Talk about growth. Talk about technology. Talk about all sorts of other things that are going to be of interest to your target audience. In other words, instead of thinking like a guy that needs to sell insurance, think like a media company. Think like a magazine and think, okay, my insurance is going to be like an advertiser in my magazine. It's how I'm going to monetize my readers. But it's not how I'm going to attract my readers. I need to attract people based upon what they're interested in. Now, of course, because I'm a business guy and I'm smart, I'm going to pick a topic that is going to attract the kind of people that would probably have a need for the insurance that I sell. And then by doing some crafty personal branding and making extensive use of video and blogging consistently on an ongoing basis, you'll build an audience, kind of like I have, of people that like you. And you'll also build some haters that can't stand you. But that's okay, because the number of people that like you will probably vastly outnumber the people that don't like you. And when you do that and you have a mailing list and you create educational content, the byproduct of that is some of the people are going to say, hey, Joey, I need insurance. Come help me.
That's it's very interesting that you say that, because I attended we were both at Inbound. We met briefly. We shook hands, and I was at a conference before that, Social Media Marketing World, which is out in your neck of the woods, out in San Diego. You're somewhere out west, aren't you? In California?
I'm in Boise, Idaho. It used to be San Diego, Boise,
Okay.
Idaho now.
Okay.
Too many in San Diego. I need smaller town.
I thought you were out west, but so I was out there in March, and I came back from that event, and I basically, being a boring industry, I said, there's 3 things that I think make up that, that process, and it's, it came from kind of 3 speakers. You're probably familiar with them: Brian Clark, Marcus Sheridan, and Chris Brogan. So Brian Clark is all about media, not marketing. So you need to create that awareness, like you said. Talk about something that is off topic. I've been doing that for about a year and a half now. Everyone thinks I'm crazy about it, but like you said, you have to do that to get their attention, because they don't want to hear you talk about insurance or whatever your very boring topic is. But then you still have to show them what what you're doing with the thing that you're doing. You still need some kind. Would you agree? So I still have
I,
videos of saying, listen, this is me telling you that I know how to sell insurance. I know what I'm talking about. And ultimately, you need to build that community where people can like feel like they belong. The people that actually pay your bills and put food on your table. You know, how do you make them feel like they belong? And that's kind of my three-pronged approach, at least, doing boring business stuff. And I think you kind of hit it right on the head.
yeah, I think it's the right approach. The mortgage company, what they do is they blog, create a lot of peripheral content about the house, but they also have the 60, a YouTube channel filled with, I think, 300 videos and counting, and they're all called the 60-second mortgage minute or something to that effect. And one of those videos that I looked at this morning had been viewed 9 times. Boring topic, viewed 9,000 times. Why? Because they had an audience. They had built an audience, and then they built an affinity with that audience. And some portion, like if you're in a stadium that has 10,000 people in it, no matter what you sell, there's about 3% of those people, according to Chet Holmes in his book, The Ultimate Sales Machine, he calls this the stadium pitch. Approximately 3% are actively looking for whatever you sell. There's another 7% that are kind of open to the idea of buying, and the other 90% have absolutely zero interest. So if you don't have a stadium, if you don't have an audience, if you don't have a following, how are the 3% that are ready to buy ever going to come and virtually tap you on the shoulder and say, sell me some insurance? Well, they won't, because you don't have the audience. How do you build the audience? Create content that they're interested in.
Yeah, and that's I don't I guess let me ask you this question real quick. Why do you think that's so hard for people to kind of wrap their brains around? Why is that such a big risk for people?
Because it's very different than how we used to do it. When I started in business, it was so easy. I got a list of people from, Dun and Bradstreet or whatever. There was no voicemail, there was no email. I just called them up, and I could get them on the phone easily, and I would offer to send them something of value. It was kind of like info marketing back, or inbound marketing a little bit, because I would say, hey, I've got this report, 10 ways to save tax through your investments. Wanted to see if you'd find any value in receiving a copy. Out of 30 people I talked to, 10 of them would say, yeah, I'd find some value in receiving that. So that stuff, the picking up the phone and getting people's attention, it doesn't work anymore. And that's why, there's a lot of people out there who are still pounding their head against that wall, or like the fly tapping on the window, and they need to just figure out how to go around the window.
Yeah. Well, before we get close to wrapping this up here, if anybody has kind of last minute questions for Trent, feel free to get those in, and we'll definitely ask them before we wrap up. But this is, what I was talking about when you kind of spoiled it there a little bit earlier. But this is the question that, like I said, I think we're going to kind of really come together on it, and you'd already touched upon it briefly. But why are so people afraid to build something that they aren't at the center of?
Because they're control freaks. You can, in business, or I guess in anything, but in business, which is the context of this discussion, you can have control or you can have growth. Take your pick.
And I'm assuming you pick growth.
I do.
And
I hire people to do things. Do they do everything as well as I could? No. But if I do everything myself, how much can I do? Not that much. That's what I mean by growth or control. And that's why you build systems.
So everyone's saying, "Oh, Trent, this sounds fantastic," but I can never find the people. I mean, you have 100 million excuses going through your head that I'm sure you've heard. Just give me one that would kind of get rid of those excuses for people.
Well, all the excuses only ever come down to one word, and that word is fear. Fear of failure. I have a YouTube video. It's been viewed just about 1 million times now that I made a few years ago, and it's called The Best How to Start a Business with No Money. I think if you search on YouTube, it comes up #1. And I talk about my green dot theory, which is basically the best way to succeed in business is to be in business. The opposite of fear is action. Somebody wrote me this morning, he's bought my book and this and that and the other thing, and hey, what's your best advice? I want to create an agency just like you. And I said, stop studying marketing and go get a client. put all of your time and all of your effort into going and getting a client, because until you have a client, you don't have a business, you have a hobby that doesn't pay you anything. When you have a client, that client, you will know more than your client from day one, I promise you. If you've read like 10 blog posts on marketing, you probably know more than your client. And that client not only will pay you, but it will force you to learn. And you'll learn. When I started my last business that was an IT service and support company, guess how much experience I had and guess how much I knew about IT service and support?
I'm going to say a little bit.
Zero. The day I sold the company and the day I started the company, I did not know how to deliver any of the services that we sold. I didn't know how to hook up a server or install a firewall or do desktop support. I didn't know how to do any of that stuff. What I knew how to do was get a customer, and I knew how to recruit people to come and help me with the things that I didn't know how to do.
So it sounds to me like your motivation in business is really just kind of that thrill of like you said, like that's what ultimately gets you going, is that ability to kind of make the wheels turn and make the action happen, if you will. Would that be a wrong assessment?
I would say the thing that motivates me most, I'm in business because it's a way to generate profits. Very closely aligned with that is my deep need to be challenged and learn. I like building stuff. So building a business, the byproduct of which is making money, it's fun. Is it fun all the time? No, there are days that absolutely suck. Like when you lose a client, that sucks. That's not a good day. But that's what I like. What the product or service is, I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love on inbound marketing because I've seen what it's done for me. But do I really care? Would I be just as happy to, own 25 subways? Sure, yeah, probably happier as a matter of fact, because that's a more scalable business.
Subways. That's the second time you mentioned Subways to me. I will. So someday, maybe a couple years from now, you'll have to let me know where I can go get a sub from a Trent Dyrsmid Subway. That's maybe somewhere in Northeast Ohio. Hopefully, I don't have to drive too far to get there. But
Idaho, not Ohio.
All right. Well,
there is a guy here who's got 6 of them for sale, and I've been talking to him for about 4 months now. I'm trying to get him to sell them to me.
Well, that's you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. Trent going into the Subway business, possibly. But we're gonna wrap up.
No. See, you misunderstood. I'm not interested in going into the Subway business as much as I'm interested in going into the franchise business because it scales. I met a guy who had 60 Pizza Huts. I told you that story.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, 60. Do you think he was passionate about making pizza? He didn't give 2 crappers about making pizza.
Well,
but was he passionate about building a successful business? Yeah, absolutely.
And now this is where my my idealist opinion, open this can of worms. I can't let you go before we get this in. But do we not have some sort of responsibility to at least care about what we do a little bit and to at least want to improve the situation from where we found it in the businesses that we create and build?
Okay, so let's use Bill Gates as an example for that one. Bill Gates was arguably one of the most successful capitalists of our time. If Bill had decided to invest his life in soup kitchens or charity work from the beginning, do you think his impact on the world would be what it is today as a result of the foundation that he and his wife have created with the billions of dollars that they made in business?
No, okay, maybe let's take this back. So Microsoft in itself, outside of crappy tablets, they don't necessarily do anything that's harmful, let's say, to the world. You use a Windows machine outside of your sanity sometimes, you're not going to necessarily be a worse person because of it. We're talking food here, so I'm thinking Pizza Hut. I'm thinking probably one of the most unhealthy things that they create is not doing our society the best if we should. I don't know how deep.
But he started 30 years ago. Do you think that people were aware of the fact that pizza maybe wasn't the greatest thing for you 30 years ago? No. Am I chomping at the bit to start a Pizza Hut chain? No. Why do you think I'm more interested in Subway? Because the food's healthier. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm not, why am I not in online porn? Great money in it because I wouldn't be proud to be in that business.
The question us we ask ourselves every day: why are we not in online porn?
Yeah.
No, well, I mean, I mean, even that, but even then, I could say Subway. I mean, it's healthier, but it's still just a slightly improved Pizza Hut that is still on. If we're, depending on where we're comparing it to, is still kind of marginal, if not below average.
Do you think your audience is really interested in hearing you and I debate the health merits of Subway versus Pizza Hut?
Well, that's the whole point of the show. We fearlessly question anything we want, and it's about connecting the dots to how everything impacts the overall success that we have, and that's a big thing of me. But I just wanted to get into that a little bit because it's about finding that, and do we have a responsibility? You sounds like not so much at first is maybe what I'm hearing from you.
It's very important to me how much value I add to my customers, which is I like to have clients that are in need of marketing help, and why I don't focus on all of my energy on selling get rich fast information products like so many other people do. Nobody, I won't name him, but there's a guy who used to be in the business that I was in, who I used to have a lot of respect for, and I'm on his list, and I know he does not work with clients anymore. And to promote his latest whatever gimmicky software, whatever product, he lied in his email. And no one would know this, but because I know who this person is and I know that he doesn't work with clients anymore, he flat out lied. It made me feel ill to read that. He is sunken to the level of lying in his emails to sell products that he bloody well knows that the vast majority of people who buy will never make a dollar as a byproduct of buying his product.
I think we need to leave it right there. I think that's about as good as we can do for today. I think Trent has sent us out on top, and I have nothing more that I can add to that. Trent, I do really appreciate you taking the time. It's been a very exciting 37 minutes here. I hope we didn't ruffle too many feathers with you and I and everybody else in the audience. But I do appreciate the time. Where can people go, check you out, get more Trent Dyrsmid, bright ideas, all that fun stuff?
Rightideas.co or groovedigitalmarketing.com.
All right, Trent. Well, I do appreciate it. I thank you so much. We're going to get out of here. Take it easy, everyone.
All right. Thanks, Joey. Bye-bye.